They say that right and left should not come together, that our petty differences must define and divide us. These people that I know and that I met on the other side of U.S. empire, they don't care if you're right wing or left wing. They don't care if you are libertarian or communist. All they want you to do is be out here today to rage against this sick, satanic, neoconservative war machine.
In blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, this government has deliberately circumvented the authority of Congress to make war. It has used illegal and unconstitutional means to destroy the energy resources needed to protect millions of people in Europe during the winter, and then to profit from its illegal actions by selling energy to Europe at a 4 to 6 times markup.
Remember that all wars are bankers' wars, and let's do the work. Let's come together, let's love, let's fight back, and let's rage against the war machine. We can't play red team, blue team anymore, because if we do, we'll surely die.
And what's happening right here at this rally is what actually scares the hell out of the establishment. Everybody from the left, everybody from the right, everybody from the middle coming together to realize that we have more in common than divides us, and we share a common enemy. That enemy is the military-industrial complex and the oligarchy, the same oligarchy that did a controlled demolition of our economy, and then they want me to hate my neighbor for the pain I'm feeling because of that. Well, I'm not gonna hate my neighbor. I'm gonna love my neighbor.
Over $100 billion in weapons and aid, and it's going where? We don't know. It's a money laundering scheme. We're here today not because we have anything bad to say about the Ukrainian people. They are suffering.
It's time to put an end to Ukrainian boys and men getting slaughtered after being conscripted at gunpoint. It's time to stand with the people of the Donbass. Stand with the other Ukrainians too. Tell your member of Congress, stop pouring gas on the fire. Stop sabotaging the peace deals. Not a single penny more for these war criminals.
Their whole vision for the war is dependent on their ability to send every last Ukrainian onto the front line. They are happy to fight to the death of the last Ukrainian. The United States is. And so standing here and organizing something like this is actually the real way to stand up for Ukrainian lives, because they're the ones suffering the most.
If we ever want to mobilize the activism required to defund the most expensive and destructive institution ever created, the U.S. military, we will have to come to an understanding that the problem is not any particular war. The problem is not any side of any particular war. The problem, the only thing we should be calling an enemy, is the very idea that there can be a right side in the toxic tango of organized mass murder that is every war.
The one that annoys me the most, or at least close to the most, is this argument. They'll say, we need a good war right now. We're having a recession. Have a war and we'll get out of the recession. And this is a lingering of a foolhardy idea that the World War II got us out of the Great Depression. That's stupid. It wasn't true at all. The Depression got worse. Besides, we sent hundreds of thousands of people over getting shot at and killed.
All wars are lies. You're anti-war? That's nice. That's great. But everyone's anti-war. It's not enough to be anti-war. You must be anti-war propaganda, because war propaganda greases the wheels of the war machine. We must fight the lies leading to war. Refuse to demonize any leader or any foreign government. The CIA wants to be demonized.
One journalist whose good deeds for truth that the criminal cabal is trying to erase is Julian Assange, whom I paraphrase here. If wars can be started with lies, then peace can be started with truth.
According to world-renowned investigative reporter Seymour Hersh, You blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. If that turns out to be true, a blatant act of war and an extreme act of global terrorism. Enough is enough. We demand change.
And idiots in our Congress decided to send over $100 billion to a pro-Banderist regime in Kiev, which we created to wage a proxy war against a nuclear superpower.
Any honest observer knows that responsibility for this war is not in Moscow, it's here in Washington. It's in the State Department, it's in the Pentagon, it's in the White House.
The U.S. has some 800 foreign bases, while Russia has about 30. Our so-called war on terror continues in a mind-boggling 85 countries and killed a staggering 6 million people in just a portion of the so-called U.S. war on terror.
For almost 20 years ago next month, I was one of 3 diplomats that resigned in opposition to the war in Iraq. And if I had another resignation to give, I'd give it on this one. Everybody ought to be resigning on these wars.
And where's the Cartoon News Network, CNN? Oh, showing everything the crap spewing out of Kamala's mouth, but never showed every day of Americans being slaughtering people all over Iraq. They never show the Americans' 20-year war in Afghanistan, slaughtering people every day. But every day they have the Ukraine war.
I think it's time to tell these pipeline blowing up bastards that we've had enough. I don't think it's complicated. I think it's time to say, look, you have every reason in the world for us to fight amongst ourselves, so we can't see what you're doing.
Those in power must feel our wrath, which means acts of sustained, nonviolent, civil disobedience, social and political disruption. Politics is a game of fear, and it is our duty to make those in power very, very afraid.
I ask you, when was the last time something good and decent came out of Washington, D.C.? This is where it was decided, based on lies, to take our country into war in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and Yemen and Kosovo and Korea and Vietnam. Let's permanently break the back of the DC war party and restore the United States Constitution and bring our troops home from their endless and undeclared adventures around the world.
But the point I want to bring up to you from that RAND study that was pleasantly surprising to me was how often they bring up the importance of public opinion in that study. Well, we would like to do X, but the people of Germany are against it. We think we'd like to push this far, but public opinion polls in America say that the people will not tolerate it. They know that we have the power to make them stop.
What I need you all to do from this point onward is to continue this energy you have here today. Fight the information war. Demand not one more bullet, not one more tank, not one more gun, not one more piece of artillery, not one more dollar, not one more penny be sent to the Nazis in Ukraine. Demand peace.
The America we love doesn't make money off of global death and destruction. The America we love doesn't jail publishers and journalists who expose government crimes, abuse, and overreach.
We have people gathered here from all over the country, people who are gathered here from all ends of the political spectrum. And if we were to have a conversation, my guess is there may be other things we don't agree on. But the truth is that we could disagree about everything else. But the one thing that we do agree on that brings us together here today is that we value life. We want to live. We want our loved ones to live and thrive. We are the spark that has the power to light that fire to bring about change.